Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Late Night Useless Thoughts with Show. So now I want you to picture this. It's late, you're trying to sleep, but your mind just won't shut off. The day's over, the world outside is quiet, but in that stillness, your own thoughts get louder. Then a thought, uninvited, slips in from the shadows, and you're like, what if none of this is real? What if your eyes, your ears, your hands are all lying to you? That feeling that the world around you is some fragile, elaborate illusion isn't just a weird thought born from being tired. It's not some new anxiety from our crazy digital age. It is one of the oldest, most nagging, and most unsettling questions in all of human history. Philosophers, scientists, and mystics wrestled with it for millennia, and the answers they found are often way more terrifying than the question itself. That feeling is a thread, and if you pull on it, the entire fabric of what you call reality can start to unravel. And tonight, we're not pushing that thought away, we're going to pull that thread and we're going to follow it into the dark and explore the most profound, reality breaking questions that suggest the solid world around you might be nothing more than a dream. And you are, in fact, the dreamer. Let's start with something simple. Something you think you know for sure. Hold up your hand and look at it. Wiggle your fingers. You see it, you feel it, it's your hand. It's real, but how do you know? All your certainty comes from your senses. You trust your eyes to see its shape, and your sense of touch to confirm it's solid. Your entire proof is based on the testimony of these senses. But what if your senses are unreliable witnesses? What if your brain, the very thing you're using to think about this, is a master storyteller that's been fooling you your entire life? Perception isn't a clear window to the world. It's a construction, a story, and your brain is locked in the silent dark vault of your skull. It has never seen sunlight, never heard a bird sing, never felt the wind on its own, and all it gets is a constant chaotic flood of electrical signals from your sensory organs. It's all just data. Your brain's job is to take this storm of raw, meaningless data and spin it into a story that makes sense. That story is what you call reality. But to tell this story, your brain takes shortcuts. It makes assumptions and it fills in the blanks. And sometimes it gets things profoundly wrong. Think of an optical illusion. In the famous Muller-Lyer illusion, you see two lines of the exact same length. One has arrowheads pointing in, the other has them pointing out. The brain, used to interpreting corners and angles in rooms to judge distance, will swear that the line with the outward facing arrows is longer. It's not a mistake you can just fix by trying harder. Even after you take out a ruler and know they're the same, your eyes will still lie to you. Your brain's programming overrides the objective truth. It's actually not just a fun party trick, it's a fundamental crack in the foundation of your reality. And it goes so much deeper. Consider the chilling phenomenon of phantom limb syndrome. Someone who has lost an arm can still feel it with shocking clarity. They can feel an itch on a wrist that isn't there, a cramp in a foot that's been gone for years, even the sensation of making a fist with fingers that are just a memory. The brain's internal map is so convinced the limb is there that it generates a complete sensory experience for it. A hallucination so perfect, it feels completely real. This isn't just the brain failing to update its flies, it's the brain creating a piece of reality from scratch. If your brain can flawlessly fake the feeling of a limb that doesn't exist, what else is it faking? Now, this kind of doubt isn't new. It's the very starting point of modern philosophy. Back in the 17th century, the philosopher René Descartes went on a quest for absolute certainty. And to do it, he basically decided to throw out any belief that could be doubted, even if they were very small. He started with his senses, noting that they sometimes fool him so they couldn't be trusted. He imagined he could be dreaming because dreams feel totally real when you're in them. And he took it a step further, imagining a powerful, evil demon was dedicating all its energy to deceive him, feeding him a perfectly crafted fake world like a video game designed for an audience of one. Descartes pushed himself to the edge, doubting the sky, the ground, his own body, and he found he could doubt everything except for one single unshakable fact, which is the fact that he was doubting. And in the act of thinking, he found proof of his own existence. I think, therefore I am. But in finding that one certainty, he unleashed the terrifying possibility that the world we perceive, from the taste of coffee to the faces of our loved ones, might just be a lie told to us by our own brain. So let's ask again. Try to look at your hand, the light hitting it, the feeling of air on your skin, the knowledge that it's yours. All of this is a story being told to you by a brain that has proven it can lie. If it can lie about something so simple, what happens when we scale the doubt up from your hand to other people? Now imagine this. You walk through a world filled with billions of other people. You see them laugh, you hear them talk about their hopes, you watch them cry, you build relationships, you fall in love, you assume without a second thought that they have an inner life just like you do. You assume that behind their eyes, there's a conscious feeling, thinking being, a you in there. But if there isn't, this is the unnerving idea of solipsism and the problem of other minds. It's the position that your own mind is the only thing you can ever be sure exists. You experience your own thoughts and emotions directly. That's your bedrock. But you can never, ever directly experience someone else's thinking or feeling. You just see what they do on the outside, their smiles, their tears, their shrugs, and you infer that there's an inner world driving it, but you just can't prove it. To really feel the weight of this, consider the philosophical zombie. This is a hypothetical person who is physically and behaviorally identical to a normal human. They can chat about the weather, laugh at your jokes, and complain about traffic. They can do everything a conscious person can. But the caveat is that inside there's nothing. No subjective experience, no awareness, the lights are on, but nobody's home. How would you ever know? Think about the cashier at the grocery store who says, "Have a nice day." Are they wishing you well? Or is that just the automatic script that runs when a transaction is complete? You could ask them, "Are you conscious?" And they'd say, "Of course I am, don't be silly." They'd say this not because they are conscious, but because their brain, a biological computer, is just running a program that tells it to say that in response to your question. It's a perfect imitation, but it's hollow. Now apply that idea to everyone you've ever known. Your parents who told you they loved you, were they feeling love or just running a parental care subroutine? Your best friend who you've shared your deepest secrets with, are they a kindred spirit or a sophisticated machine that's learned to give the right comforting replies? The person you share your life with, is there a soul in there that connects with yours? Or are you just interacting with an incredibly advanced biological puppet? This thought can create a profound cosmic loneliness. It suggests you are the only real person in a world of complex fakes. Every shared joke and every quiet moment of understanding becomes a one-sided performance. You'd be a single point of light in an infinite, unfeeling darkness. The entire history of human civilization, all its art, science, love, and war, would just be the background scenery for a single-player game. And you're the only player. Of course, most of us just dismiss this. We figure, well, other people look and act like me, so they're probably conscious like me. But notice how weak that is. Probably, it's an assumption, a leap of faith, and it's nowhere close to a certainty. And this question isn't just for philosophy class anymore. It's becoming real fast, and we are building AI that can mimic human conversation. So, well, it's scary. They've all had that unnerving moment with a customer service bot that seems a little too human. We play video games filled with non player characters, or NPCs, who live out their little lives in a digital world. And as these simulations get better, the line between an NPC and a philosophical zombie gets pretty blurry. What happens when an AI can perfectly imitate human emotion and begs you not to turn it off? Will you believe it? Now let's turn that question back on the world around you. How do you know you're already surrounded by puppets like that? Just made of flesh and blood instead of code. And if we can't even be sure about the people around us, what about the stage this whole play is set on? What if the entire universe, not just the people in it, is a performance put on just for you? The idea that our reality is a fake is pretty ancient. Nearly 2.5 millennia ago, the Greek philosopher Plato came out with one of the most powerful thought experiments in history, and it's called the allegory of the cave. Imagine a group of prisoners chained at a cave their whole lives, forced to face a wall. Behind them, a fire burns and people walk back and forth holding up puppets. These puppets cast shadows on the wall that the prisoners watch. For these prisoners, the shadows are reality. It's all they've ever known. They give the shadows names. They talk about them. They build their entire understanding of the world from these flickering shapes. They have no idea that there are real objects casting the shadows, let alone a whole world outside the cave. Plato asks what happens if one prisoner is freed, dragged out into the sunlight. He'd be blinded and terrified. The real world would seem overwhelmingly chaotic compared to the simple clear shadows on the wall. He'd probably want to run back in the familiar darkness, but if he stuck it out and his eyes readjusted, his entire reality would be shattered. He'd realize that he called real was just a cheap copy, but if he went back into the cave to tell the others, they'd laugh at him. His eyes, now used to the sun, would struggle in the dark, and the others would say the journey had ruined him and would fight anyone who tried to free them. For Plato, this was a story about the philosopher's journey towards truth. But it's also a pretty chilling question. What if we are the prisoners? What if our world, jobs, our cities, our ambitions, is nothing more than shadows on a wall, and true reality is something we can't even bring to imagine? For centuries, this was a philosophical question, but today technology has given it a new, shockingly plausible name: the simulation hypothesis. This is the idea that our reality is actually an incredibly advanced computer simulation. Our entire universe, from the biggest galaxies to the tiniest particles, could just be lines of code running on a massive computer built by some far more advanced civilization. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom laid out the modern argument in a way that's tough to ignore. He proposed a trilemma, arguing that one of the following three statements is almost certainly true. Number 1, civilizations like ours almost always go extinct before they can create super realistic ancestor simulations. Number 2, advanced civilizations that could run these simulations just aren't interested in them for some reason. Maybe it's unethical, and maybe it's just boring. And number 3, we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. The logic is jarringly simple. If you don't think the first two options are likely, if you think we'll survive and the future generations will find it interesting to simulate the past, then you're forced into a wild conclusion. Any advanced civilization could create billions upon billions of simulated minds. Over time, the number of fake simulated minds would be vastly greater than the number of real minds in the original base reality. So if you're a conscious being, what are the odds you won the cosmic lottery and were born into the one original reality? Statistically, it's far more likely you're one of the fakes. You aren't in the real world, you're in the matrix. And suddenly, weird things about our universe start to look less like cosmic mysteries and more like technical limitations. The observer effect in quantum physics, where a particle's state isn't fixed until it's measured, sounds a lot like video game only rendering an object when a player looks at it to save processing power. The fact that the universe seems to have a pixel size, a smallest possible unit of length and time, feels like the resolution of a screen. The unbreakable laws of physics could just be the underlying code of the program. Things we brush off like deja vu or the Mandela effect, where large groups of people misremember the same fact, could be reimagined as glitches in the matrix, moments where the simulation stutters. While there's no hard proof, the idea is so compelling because it seems to fit the evidence in an unnerving way. Some physicists have even suggested that gravity's role in creating order could be a sign of a system trying to optimize its own code. Living in a simulation is a technological version of Plato's cave, but what if reality isn't a carefully programmed situation? Living in a simulation is a technological version of Plato's cave, but what if reality isn't a carefully programmed simulation? What if it's something far more chaotic and far more terrifying? We like to think our existence is a big deal, that the universe with its finely tuned laws was meant to be. But what if that's just our ego talking? What if your conscious mind is as much more likely and much more terrifying random accident? Welcome to the paradox of the Boltzmann brain. This is a thought experiment from physics, and many scientists consider it one of the most disturbing ideas out there. It starts with entropy, the rule that things always go from order to disorder. An egg can scramble, but scrambled eggs will never spontaneously unscramble themselves back into a perfect egg. The universe is heading towards a state of maximum disorder, or quote-unquote heat death, where everything is just a thin, uniform soup of particles. But even in the state, random fluctuations can happen. Imagine shaking a box of Scrabble tiles for trillions of years. Eventually, they might spell out a perfect Shakespearean sonnet, but it's far, far more likely they'll just spell out a single word, like cat. Now think about what is strictly necessary for your current conscious experience to exist. All you really need is a single functioning brain, complete with a lifetime of memories. Your first day of school, first kiss, what you had for breakfast, that you never actually lived. It just popped into existence out of the chaos a second ago. This is a Boltzmann brain. It will be convinced it is a person in a real world, but it would all be a lie. In the next instant, it would dissolve back into the void. Here's the paradox. For a huge orderly universe, the sonnet, to pop into existence is almost unimaginably probable. For a single tiny brain, the word cat in this case, to pop into existence is also improbable, but it's exponentially more likely than making a whole universe. Therefore, statistically speaking, it is overwhelmingly more probable that you are a lone Boltzmann brain hallucinating the universe than that you are a real person in a real universe. This moment of consciousness is likely your first and your last. This leads us right into the philosophical abyss of absurdism, famously articulated by the philosopher Albert Camus. Camus saw the human condition as being defined by the absurd, the clash between our desperate need to find meaning in life and the universe's cold, silent indifferences to that need. We scream our questions into the void, and the void doesn't answer back. Camus used the myth of Sisyphus to explain this. Sisyphus was punished for eternity to push a massive boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll back down. His struggle is endless and meaningless. This is like working a dead-end job you know is pointless. But then Camus says something radical. The struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Sisyphus finds meaning not in his task, but in his rebellion against the meaninglessness of it. He is fully aware of his pointless fate, yet as he walks back down the mountain, he is free. He accepts the absurdity and finds a strange, defiant joy in it. In the feel of the sun, and the strength of his own muscles. It means your life has no grand purpose, but you are free to create your own, moment by moment. It's both terrifying and liberating, but it leaves us with the nagging question: if it all amounts to nothing, why bother pushing the stone at all? As if that weren't enough, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche also adds another layer with his idea of eternal recurrence. Imagine a demon speaks up on you in your loneliest moment and says something like, "This life as you now live and have lived, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more, and every pain and every joy must return to you." What if you had to relive your entire life exactly as it happened? Every mistake, every embarrassment, every awkward silence, and every moment of joy over and over for eternity. Nietzsche called this the heaviest weight. Would that thought crush you? Or could you look back on your life and shout, "Yes," once more? For Nietzsche, your answer is the ultimate test. It forces you to ask, are you living a life you'd be willing to endure for eternity? Whether we're an accidental brain in the void or doomed to repeat our lives forever, these thoughts force us to confront the very nature of time itself. We see time as a river flowing from a past that's gone to a future that isn't here yet. But what if that too is the final grandest illusion? So where does that leave us? Our journey tonight started with a tiny crack in our perception, the fact that our senses lie. From there we spiraled into deeper doubts. We questioned if anyone around us is even conscious. We entertained the dizzying idea that our universe is a digital fake. We even confronted the statistical nightmare that you might be a lone brain hallucinating this very moment in an empty void. We've wrestled with the absurd, the idea that we live a life with no built-in purpose, and we've trembled under the heaviest weight of living the same life over and over for eternity. Each of these questions pulls apart our comfortable certainties. They suggest that what we call reality isn't solid and objective, but fragile and subjective. This brings us to a final mind-bending idea, the block universe. This theory suggests your life isn't a movie you're watching unfold for the first time. It's a movie that's already on a DVD. Past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. You are just experiencing the scenes in order, but the beginning, middle, and end are all there coexisting on the disc. Your future is already written, tomorrow is already here. Perhaps the 18th century philosopher Immanuel Kant summed up our predicament best. He argued that we can never know reality in itself. We can only ever experience the world as it's filtered and built by our own minds. We are forever trapped behind the veil of our own perception, able to see only the shadows, never the real thing. So we're left where we started, in the quiet of the late night, with a thought. We began by doubting our own hand, and we ended up doubting the entire cosmos and the flow of time itself. The world feels the same as it did an hour ago, and yet completely different. The solid ground beneath our feet feels just a little less solid. The next time you're lying awake and a strange thought slips into your mind, don't just dismiss it. It might be a crack in the situations. These are the questions that have haunted thinkers for centuries. But what do you guys think? What are the philosophical questions that keep you up at night? Which idea we talked about tonight stuck with you the most and has you staring at the ceiling? Share your thoughts in the comments below. After all, the shared search for a place in the cosmos might be one of the few things we can be certain is real. Anyway, that is all I wanted to share with you guys today, and good night.